Hello everyone, Clack of the Geek here, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to do a little sort of list video thingy. We're going to be talking about Doctor Who cliffhangers throughout the show and my 5 personal favourite. Now, the cliffhangers are such an iconic part of Doctor Who. They're, especially the classic series where literally every episode ended on a cliffhanger, It was that classic thing of the Doctor and the companions will be in a situation and they're cornered by a monster, or, it seems all is lost, and the end credits play and the iconic theme plays, and you're just thinking, how the hell is Doctor Who going to get out of this one? And there's always that stereotype of the next day everyone's going to be talking about it, and there is that kind of stereotype with the cliffhanger, and Doctor Who has had some absolutely brilliant cliffhangers in the past, but it's weirdly something that I've never properly thought about, like, well, what is my favourite? But after having a little think, I've come up with a list. Also, this list isn't in like sort of best to worst or worst to best order. It's just I'm just going in chronological order just to make it easy. I couldn't rank them really. It'd just be too much effort. Anyway, here's the list. Kicking off the list, we have episode 2 of the Ark, the William Hartnell story. So the premise of this story is that there is a human colony far in the future with their slaves, the Monoids, and companion Dodo nearly wipes out this colony with the common cold because it's so far in the future. Also, recently the actor who played Dodo, Jackie Lane, passed away at the age of 79. Rest in peace. But by the second episode, they've all figured it out, so that bit of it's done. But then the Doctor and his companions go about hundreds of years into the future, and they find out that the Monoids, those slaves, have taken control. And the last image in episode 2 is just, the Monoids have taken over, and there's this just looming statue that the humans have built. And it's the 60s cliffhangers were very eerie and very ominous and quite creepy, whether that was the black and white aesthetic. But just this image of like a looming statue and this alien statue, it's quite creepy and quite sinister. It's a bit like, an unearthly child with their TARDIS just in this desert for the very first time you see it, and there's something very eerie about it. I also think the music helps with this, because a lot of the time with cliffhangers, with the Doctor Who theme, it's usually this sting, the doom, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. With the 60s, the theme just sort of blended in, it just sort of faded into the theme music, and there's just before the credits roll, there's this silence, and I think that's what helps really create that eerie atmosphere of like, oh god, what are we going to do? And it's quite effective because this means that the episode is broken up into 2 different parts. The first 2 episodes are the sort of human plague plotline, and then the last 2 parts are the Monoid stuff. So if you're somebody who watches classic Who, just, you watch a couple of episodes, have a break, watch the next few episodes later, this sort of works in your favour, I guess. Now, talking about the 60s, there are other cliffhangers that you could pick from, like Unearthly Child Part 1, for instance. The Daleks. The Daleks have some great cliffhangers. The Mind Robber, even. That's a good one. Space Museum. The 10th Planet, maybe. There's so many, but the Ark, it always stood out for me. Next, we have Genesis of the Daleks, Episode 2, moving to the Tom Baker era now. My favourite classic story, and one of the very first ones I remember watching when I was a kid. And, there's so many cliffhangers that I could have picked from this. Part 1, maybe, when the reveal of Davros for the first time, or even part 5 when the Doctor's getting strangled by the Dalek mutant. But this cliffhanger, from the moment I first saw it, it has always just struck a nerve with me, and I vividly remember watching it and just being completely taken aback. So, context of the scene. So Sarah Jane and some other prisoners are escaping, and they sort of climb up this tower thing, and they're getting shot at, and some of the other prisoners get shot down. And Sarah, there's a gunshot. She slips. The sting of the Doctor Who theme plays, and bam, end of the episode. And it's so sudden. You don't have time to think about it. And in the moment, and when I first watched this story, I just jumped out my skin. I was so shaken by it, and I distinctly remember it. And I think that's the case with these next couple of cliffhangers. They really did resonate with me, and I think the music really does help because the 70s and the 80s did this really. They had for the cliffhangers, they would have the sting, the doom, so it's just so sudden, and it's a different approach to the 60s and how they did the cliffhangers. And, I don't know which one I prefer. I think they're both great, but this one has always stood with me. From the moment I saw it nearly 5 years ago now. I feel old. At number 3, we have The Deadly Assassin Part 3. So, this one, again, does have that sort of shock value, but it's done a bit differently here. It's more like it's presented more as a plot twist, because in this story, okay, so the Doctor is on Gallifrey to stop the Master because the Master's doing evil stuff, obviously. And the Doctor goes into the Matrix, and there's all these horrifying things about, and there's this assassin hunting him down, and he's like masked and stuff. And at the end of Part 3, you find out that he's a character that we knew, Chancellor Goth, another Time Lord, who's been hypnotised by the Master to kill the Doctor in the Matrix. And it's a moment that you don't see coming on first viewing. And again, it's something that I distinctly remember first seeing, and I was completely taken aback. I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And the last image of the story is the Doctor being drowned. This was really, controversial at the time, and I swear there's been re-airings of this story where the drowning bit has been cut for being too violent and such. And honestly, it's so shocking, isn't it? And it's quite it is really disturbing, and I love it. I love it when Doctor Who is a bit darker and sort of tiptoes the edge of what you can and can't do on like a sort of Saturday tea time TV slot. I love The Deadly Assassin, and I love this cliffhanger, and again, it's always resonated with me in a different sort of sense, but I still love it. At number 4, due to the new series now, is Bad Wolf. And now, when I said at the beginning of the video, this was a bit of a struggle to make because I hadn't really thought of what are my favourite cliffhangers. It doesn't apply for this one because this immediately sprung to mind. And I guess, I'll say it, this is my favourite Doctor Who cliffhanger. I think it's perfect. So, context of the scene, the Doctor... Well, Rose has just apparently been killed, but it turns out she's alive somewhere, but we don't know. And they find out that she's on a Dalek ship. Worse than that, there's an entire fleet of Daleks, 500,000 to be precise. And, they contact the Doctor and the other characters, and it just seems like, all hope is lost. Until the 9th Doctor utters a very simple word. No. And just... honestly, it's absolutely... You're left speechless. And it's when the incidental music starts kicking in, as it keeps increasing its intensity. The Daleks are dumbfounded, the side characters are dumbfounded. As Eccleston keeps repeating, I said no, it means no. I'm going to rescue her. I'm going to save Rose Tyler, then I'm going to save the Earth, and then I'm going to wipe every last stinking Dalek out of the sky. I mean, it doesn't half get your blood pumping for the finale. And it's kind of a cliffhanger for the Daleks, because it's like, they're the ones who are like, oh God, what do we do? I tell you what, rewatching, Series 1 for the podcast that I did with Ronnie, and, rewatching this one in particular, I've always loved this two-parter, Battle for Part of the Ways, and I've always loved Part of the Ways, but I've never fully appreciated how excellent Bad Wolf is, because it is an outstanding episode, and this cliffhanger is easily the best moment in the episode, and oh God, I love it to bits. It's an absolutely perfect moment. And finally, Wild Enough and Times cliffhanger. So, the Series 10 story, the only story on this list that I was actually there for its broadcast. I still remember watching it on that Saturday. They say, one of the greatest stories of all time, and to explain it briefly, Bill, the companion, has been converted into a Cyberman, and there's two Masters, and John Sim is back as the Master. Even though I think it was the Mirror or something, they already spoiled it a few months before, and oh God, that was a poor decision on their part. Now, this might be because I was a stupid kid at the time, but I didn't see through the Master's disguise as Razor, this lovable passenger, and maybe it was because I was a stupid kid, maybe not, we'll never know, but I think it is a testament to the story of how gripped I was that I didn't see through the disguise, and I can tell you exactly the moment where I knew it was the last. It wasn't the former Prime Minister line, it was just before that when he's like, I love disguises. And I was like, he's been the master all along, hasn't he? I think because we were waiting and waiting, and I was just like, oh, it's him, isn't it? It seems so obvious now, but I mean, I'll never forget how I first felt watching it. And then as far as the Bill becoming a Cyberman part, you know, it's something throughout the episode that happens. At the beginning, she gets shot and taken away by the patients, and then the episode is a roller coaster of emotions, and it's building to this incredible moment, and it's just like, you know, the reveal. It's almost like watching a car crash. Kind of, you know what's coming, but you can't admit to it. You don't want to admit to it, you know, because we love Bill. Bill is a character that we care about, so it's horrible. And then the very last shot, you know, it's like the two masters there. Capaldi's acting is flawless. You know, the look on his face of horror. It's just impeccable. John Sim uttering the line "Genesis of the Cybermen," the line that every fan had wanted to hear for yonks, and you know, and the final shot of, like, you know, the "I waited for you," and it's just like soul crushing, and I remember my jaw on the floor first watching this on broadcast, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. What are some of your favourite cliffhangers from Doctor Who, classic or new? What do you think of my choices that I've given here? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And this is Clack of the Geek, signing out. Goodbye, everyone.